انه العلماء بتوعنا الاوائل الواقدي والطبري وكتير منهم قالوا يا جماعه المسجد الاقصى، احنا مش عارفين ان سيدنا محمد بعد ما ضايقوه في قريش راح دعا في الطائف.
نعم.
وعلى طريق الطائف في مسجدين، مسجد اسمه المسجد الادنى ومسجد اسمه المسجد الاقصى. فالايه في سوره الاسراء بتعبر عن حال النبي وهو بيفكر متحير زي ابراهيم كده، سيدنا ابراهيم لما قال رب ارني انظر اليه، موسى وابراهيم وكتير من الانبياء مروا بمرحله الحيره دي. فالايه بتقول سبحان الذي اسرى بعبده من المسجد الحرام الى المسجد الاقصى الذي باركنا حوله، في وقت ما كانش فيه صلاه.
نعم.
يبقى اذا ده مكان تقديس ومكان معروف، والا كان تم تعريفه.
نعم.
طيب، فالواقدي وغيره قالوا ان ده المسجدين اللي هم على طريق مكه من جهه الطائف.
هو ده الحرام والاقصى؟
بس ليه؟ لانه الاقصى ما كانش موجود، ولا كانت المدينه الموجوده اسمها القدس، كان اسمها ايلياء.
نعم.
ولا كان فيها مساجد.
إذا المعنى هذا أن المسجد الأقصى لا يمثل قدسية عند المسلمين؟
لا، المسجد الأقصى يمثل لعبة سياسية عملها عبد الملك بن مروان.
The way to Taif from Mecca takes 2 days. 2 days walk, 2-day walk. And between every 2 days, there is a night. Until this very day. And at night, you don't want to stay out in the desert because you will be devoured either by 4-legged animals who will make you a kebab and your camel a shishlik, and you don't want it, or 2-legged animals who will catch you to sell you as a slave, and they will annex your camel to their fleet. And you don't want them as well. You have to stay overnight in a place protected by the people who live in that place as they protect themselves. And sure enough, according to Islamic sources, between Mecca and Taif, there was a village named Ji'irrana, unknown today. And in this village, he used to spend the night on the way to Taif and the night on the way back, because the way back also takes 2 days. And in the morning, and this is according to Islamic sources, in the morning he used to pray in one of 2 mosques which they built near the village. One was closer to the village, so they named it the Closer Mosque. In Arabic, the Al-Masjid Al-Adna. The other one was further from the village, so they name it the Further Mosque. In Arabic, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, the Further Mosque, the closer and the further. One morning, he wakes up in Mecca after a revelation descended upon him to the night. Revelation which appears in the Quran, chapter 17, verse 1, which says, "Glory to him," means Allah, "who took his servant at night." At night means in spite of all the dangers, those with 4 and those with 2 legs. Who took his servant at night from the holy mosque, which is Mecca, to the further mosque, which is near Ji'irrana, which we, means the deity, which we blessed its surroundings, in order to show him our wonders, since he, means Allah, sees and hears everything. This is the verse in the Quran, chapter 17, verse 1. Glory to him who took his servant at night from the holy mosque to the further mosque, in order to show him our, which we blessed its surroundings, in order to show him our wonders, since he sees and hears everything. His followers understood it literally. They know exactly where the further mosque is. A whole day walk, and what a wonder! Allah took him during the night in spite of all the dangers, all the way to Ji'irrana, to the further mosque, and back, and the man wakes up in bed, safe and sound, and his wife swears that he didn't get out of bed through the whole night. What a wonder. Okay, this is the night dream. They didn't make any fuss out of it. They were used to his visions, and they continued their routine. He died in 632.
Once in a while, he was going to Taif. It's a city in the Arab Peninsula to the east from Mecca. When he was walking to Taif, the way was 2 days' walk. He used to spend the night in a village named Ji'irrana. And in the morning, when he woke up, he used to pray in one of 2 mosques which were near Ji'irrana. One was closer to the village, and it was named the closer mosque, Al-Masjid al-Adna, and the other one was further from the mosque, and it was called the further mosque, Al-Masjid al-Aqsa. One morning, he woke up in Mecca with a new revelation, which is stated in the Quran in chapter 17, which says, glory to Allah, who took his servant at night from the holy mosque, which is Mecca, to the further mosque, which is near Ji'irrana. His companions understood it very well because they know exactly what the further mosque is. The Prophet died in 632. 50 years later, there was a rebellion against the government which was in Damascus already by the Umayyads. Because of various reasons, they did not let the people from Damascus area come to pilgrimage, to Hajj, to Mecca. So the Caliph Yazid collected his ulama, means the wise people, what to do with this? Because the Hajj is an obligatory mission to go every year, we have to do it. So he came with an idea. Let's take Jerusalem as an alternative place for pilgrimage. So they tell him, hey, but Jerusalem is not mentioned in the Quran. And Jerusalem is not mentioned in the Quran. How can we convince the people to come to Hajj, to Jerusalem? So he said, you remember this verse in the Quran? Glory to Allah who took his servant from the holy mosque to the further mosque, Al-Aqsa. Let's tell the people that Al-Aqsa is in Jerusalem.
The whole idea of Jerusalem as a holy city for Islam was invented by the Umayyads, who controlled the Islamic world between 661 CE and 750, means like 90 years, and they sanctified Jerusalem as an alternative place for pilgrimage, for Hajj, instead of Mecca, because of a rebellion which erupted in Mecca in the year of 682. 682, 50 years after Muhammad died. So they took a verse in the Quran which talks about the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which originally was between Mecca and Taif, 2 cities in the Arabian Peninsula, and they actually moved the Al-Aqsa from the Arab Peninsula to Jerusalem in order to give a seal of approval to their decision to divert the Hajj from Mecca to Jerusalem. And this is the whole thing about Jerusalem. And they invented thousands of stories about the sanctity of Jerusalem, including the night journey, the nocturnal journey of Muhammad, which is mentioned in the Quran, as if it was to Jerusalem, in order to show that Jerusalem is actually more holier than Mecca. So the whole thing about the sanctity of Jerusalem in Islam is based on a rebellion, or I would say a struggle within Islam between the center of Damascus and the center of Mecca. So this is the whole thing. It was fake news then. So the Shia did not agree to view Jerusalem as holier than any other city. And for them, the third place in holiness after Mecca and Medina is the city of Najaf in the southern part of Iraq. The Shia, which are 16% of Islam, do not agree, but traditionally, that Jerusalem is holier than any other city like Cairo or Alexandria or Damascus or Beirut. Okay? So it's already a sign that it was something fishy about this thing. This is where the beginning of the fake news started, And surprisingly, even Sunni Muslims, some scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah and Razali, who lived in the Middle Ages, knew that this was all fake news, and they actually viewed Jerusalem as a regular city, not any holier than any other city like Beirut and Damascus. So this is already then, and Muslims discovered this fake news before many others. This is one thing. Fast forward to recent times. In 1925 and 6 and 7 and 30 and 32, I think, the Grand Mufti, the Mufti Hajj Amir al-Husseini, who was a great Jew hater, he took part in the extermination of the Jews of Hungary in 1944. He published a brief guide to Al-Haram al-Sharif in English. It's a booklet which was directed to more or less British tourists, because this country was occupied by Britain. And in order to bring more tourists to this country, he published this book in English. And in this book, he writes explicitly that the Haram al-Sharif, means the Temple Mount, is actually the place of Solomon's temple. This is what he admits. In that book, you can download it for free. I could show you it on screen. Another thing, Jordanian maps, which were produced until 1967, talk about the Temple Mount as a Mount Moriah, no less. M-O-R-I-A-H. I don't know how to read it otherwise. This is Mount Moriah, Har Moriah in Hebrew, until 1967. Today, the fake news is that the whole thing is Al-Aqsa. They don't mention anymore Mount Moriah in any map today. How Jerusalem became so holy for Muslims, to a degree that it's viewed as the third place in sanctity after Mecca and Medina. The question is even more obvious when everybody knows that Jerusalem is not mentioned in the Quran even once in neither of its namings, meaning Al-Quds or Beit al-Maqdis or Ilya, which is short for Ilya Capitolina, and Urushalim. During the days of Muhammad, there were near, not far from Mecca, a village named Ji'irrana. And near this village there were two mosques. One was closer and was named Al-Masjid Al-Adna, and the other one was a bit far from the village, and it was called Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, means the further mosque. And everybody knew that. And Muhammad even prayed in these mosques, Al-Masjid Al-Adna and Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. In the Quran it mentions that Allah took his servant at night from the holy mosque, which is in Mecca, to the further mosque, which is near this village Al-Ji'irrana, and there Allah showed him his wonders. This is chapter 17, verse 1. After Muhammad passed away, the caliphs gradually moved the capital, the Islamic capital, to Damascus, thus leaving Mecca as a remote place, only a place for pilgrimage. In the year of 682, 50 years after the Prophet passed away, there was a rebellion in Mecca because of various reasons, mainly because of the moral level of the behavior of the people in Damascus, who were behaving freely with the wives of the Mujahideen, those who were fighting in Persia and towards Spain in the west. And since they went to Mecca every year in order to cleanse their sins, somebody from Mecca named Abdullah ibn Zubayr declared rebellion against the caliph and against those who lived in Damascus, and he prevented them from coming to Mecca to clean their sins in Mecca. So the caliph, since he could not do anything about this because he had no soldiers at that time, at the year of 682, because the soldiers were fighting in Persia and in Morocco, he, for 8 years, looked for another place or alternative place for pilgrimage. So if Jerusalem was holy for Jews and Christians, let it be also holy for Muslims. Then they took this story about the Allah which took his servant from the Holy Mosque to Aqsa Mosque, and they imported the Aqsa Mosque to Jerusalem and said that the Jerusalem is the Aqsa Mosque, the real one, and concocted a whole series of stories how Jerusalem is holier than Mecca, only in order to establish the idea that the pilgrimage should be to Jerusalem and not to Mecca. Of course, this was a lie. This was a whole bunch of concoctions. These stories which the ulama, the wise people of the caliph, made up those days. There were Islamic scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah who knew about this, and they tried to put Jerusalem in its original status, which is like every other city.